Welcome again to another episode of Constructive Conversations, where we chat with various professionals that contribute to the design world. I'm Lisa Maitland, and today I chat with the wonderful interior designer Michelle Berman. Michelle, how are you?
I'm great, and thank you for inviting me to the program.
Thank you for being here. I know you have years of experience. Just tell us how many years.
About 30 years experience in
Wow.
the design
Okay.
field. About half of it part-time
Mhm.
and half of it full-time.
Wow.
15 years full-time.
In Trinidad and
In
Tobago.
Trinidad.
We're having this conversation, and one of my first questions,
Mhm.
burning questions, is about the designer versus decorator. In recent times, I've been hearing persons say, I need a designer or I need a decorator. So let's just clarify it from the onset. What is the difference between an interior designer and an interior decorator?
Well, both designers, interior designer and decorator, have their roles in the design world, interiors world.
All right.
First of all, the interior designer, to break that down, what we do when a client comes to us is that we take the information similar to the decorator. But what we do is we create spaces that are physically, socially, and aesthetically functional.
Okay.
And on top of that, we have to adhere to all the regulations and codes that govern buildings or in the interiors of buildings.
Okay. Regulations and codes.
Yes.
All right.
And there are a lot.
All right.
A space doesn't happen just like that. It doesn't just look aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, okay.
It has to function, it has to flow,
Mhm.
and codes regulate these things as well.
Okay.
Whereas for the decorator, they do not build a structure. They do not work from the ground up like a designer would do.
Oh.
What they do is they take an existing space, let's say this room that we're in,
Mhm.
and then we embellish it with furniture and accessories.
Okay.
So they work with existing spaces, whereas an interior designer will work from a non-existent space. We will work with structures to create the client's vision.
Okay, so it's decorating. What I'm hearing you say, decorating
So surfaces.
Surfaces.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is how I would break it down. I would say the decorator deals with the surfaces, so paints, fabrics, whatever have you, furniture,
All right.
items like that.
Drapes.
Whereas the blinds that are behind you. whereas the interior designer will work with all that, along with
Okay.
having to think about the structure, columns, supports, structural walls, and all these other elements to bring the space into fruition.
So you consider a whole lot more.
A whole lot more. And generally, interior designers need to be licensed.
Okay.
Whereas a decorator does not.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Because we're responsible, just similarly to an architect, but we're not architects. I want to make that clear. You're responsible for what goes on in the building, and let's say I decided, you wanted to bring this room and the next room together, and there's a wall there. I have to find out if it's a structural wall or a non-structural wall, if I could break it down, if I could break part of it down. Or none of it down, And we work along with architects and engineers, QSs, depending on the sizes of the projects, of course. And a small project, you could do it, you work as your own company or your own designer. And if it's a real big project, it's a team of different
professionals
coming together.
Okay.
And we have to understand everybody's speak, so you don't sit around the table and not understand what the engineer is saying or the architect is saying. You have to know, so you can give your part. Exactly. So you can put in your part of it to make the project come, your end of it at least come to fruition.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk value. What does an interior designer bring to the table in terms of value?
All right, the initial thing, which is the most obvious solution, response to this question is that We make a space aesthetically pleasing. But that is just the end product. There's so much more that goes on before we get to the aesthetically pleasing phase.
Which is what everybody would see.
No, because that's what people see. They don't understand the work that goes on in the background.
Which is why I think persons don't necessarily understand the difference between the decorator and the designer. Because we don't see that process.
No, you only see the pretty process.
And we think you choose paint colors and that's it.
So pretty, so cute. No, it's a lot of hard work. No, but what we do is when the client contacts us, we have the conversations. What do you expect from me? What do they want from the project? What are their goals? What are their visions for the project? So now I have to take that information, internalize it, and bring it to fruition.
Right.
And that's a process. So we meet the client.
I tell you what I like.
Yes. You like pink, so we're going to work with pink.
Yes.
And more than that, just joking. And yes, so now we talk budget. So after you give me your ideas, I will ask you, what is your budget?
Right. And we're coming to that question
yes.
about cost.
It's important. Nobody budget. It's very, very important because that gives me the parameters in which I could work and where I could, bring the ideas to fruition. And so one thing with the budget is setting goals and expectations for the client. Because depending on the budget, you can do so much. If let's say we're in this room again and you give me $100,000 to design this room, you can get A. But if you give me $1 million to design this room, you can get B. So it all depends on the vision and what the scope of the project is. And it's so important. Not only that, you might have this room and you say, my budget is $100. Now, I have to say as the designer, exactly what you can get for the $100. And sometimes that happens. Not all the time that the client comes to, everybody's excited and nobody's budget is infinite.
Right.
Look, most people, I should say. There are a few people out there with infinite budgets.
All right.
I'm assuming. And I have to work within that to give you the best value for what your budget is allowing at this point in time.
Okay.
Maybe later on you might be able to add more to it. But for now, we do that and we do it efficiently and we try and make you happy at the end.
You still have to keep clients in check though in terms of
we do.
Because we could want the world and the stars.
And everyone wants the world.
And the
universe. It's just part of,
But the budget says.
Yeah, because even if you're doing an office, no matter what you're doing, and I have done all the different genres of buildings out there. Everybody has a lot of things that they want. The scope is normally extremely great. And then
however,
most times the budget and the scope just does not match. But my job as a designer is to still bring the client's goals and expectations into fruition.
All right.
And we make magic.
Oh, wow.
We have to make magic.
Yeah.
Not only that, in terms of use of the space and how, and I, as a designer, I go there, I've known you for some time.
Yeah.
I always complain about how space is used.
Right.
And we take the space, we take the client's scope, and we make the space flow. We make it work, make it function, so that the user is more comfortable in the space than it was before. If it was a space that we're renovating, and if it's a space that we're creating, so that the user could function more efficiently and effectively in the space. And that cuts out a lot of the mistakes that could possibly be made.
Okay.
And it's very important because...
And no guesswork.
No guesswork. If we work it out on the paper, basically it's correct. I mean,
Okay.
sometimes you have to do some adjustments when you go on site, but
Right.
that's just part of it, you know.
Yeah, okay.
And when you go on site and let's say something is awry, I also have to come up with a solution.
Right.
You
On
know,
the go.
and it happens every day. I've just completed a project, and it is every day. It was a renovation, and it was interesting to see the process of getting I wouldn't say the problem. It's not a problem. Problem is a strong word.
Okay.
It's not a problem. It's a little dilemma.
Yeah.
And then fixing the dilemma, and then we go on. You know, so it's constant. It's a to and fro, and it just comes together all in the end.
Yeah.
As we say, the guesswork is taken out of it, and I'm there to comfort the client, so for them to know that don't worry.
Yeah.
It's going to be all good in the end.
You know, but you say that, and what I'm hearing is that you'd be saving the client time, money,
stress. They stress sometimes still. I take some of the stress off, not all the stress, because I think it's in human nature to go,
oh my gosh.
This is never going to happen.
Well, I think even before that, persons look at professionals and, you know, wonder how much they cost. Because if you're bringing all of this to the table, then the question would be, how much do interior designers cost?
Everything is a cost. You know, there's a cost to everything. And yes, there's a cost to interior design. You know, but different professionals in the field, they will charge the client differently. It all depends on the individual. There are governing bodies that regulate how the charges are done so that you don't go crazy and charge the client any ridiculous prices. So we have a set parameter within which to operate so that it works, and one designer doesn't charge 100% and the other designer charges 1%.
Yeah.
So there's a
range.
There's a little range in which to operate. So basically it's 4 ways we do it, depending on the designer again, and I should say depending on the scope, if it's a small project or large project.
Yeah.
It all depends as well. So you could do what's called a cost plus, or what we call a markup.
Okay.
So some people, like a decorator or some designers, will work on the markup principle, where if they buy the table, they will mark the table up 10% or 15% and sell it to the client, basically. Okay. That's legal. It's not illegal by any means.
Okay.
And then there's the fixed rate. So there's a fixed rate at which some designers will say, for this project, I will charge you X amount of whatever, X amount of the budget. So that's fixed. Then there is the hourly rate. So you can do that as well. So you have to, as a designer, you keep track of every minute you spend on the project. I'm talking about even a phone call.
Okay.
You track that. Yeah.
Phone calls too.
You want to talk to me all day long? I'll track it.
I hope you are listening.
Keep your conversations brief.
Let's keep it short.
Well, that's if you're doing the hourly rate part of it. I mean, that for me is a lot. I don't work on the hourly rate.
Okay.
And then, of course, there is the square foot rate, which is that is the one I generally work on.
Okay.
But for larger projects. On smaller projects, I'll do a combination of the above, except the hourly rate. Okay. That's a lot of time. I need an assistant to keep track of those things. Basically, that is it.
All right. So let's give us some advice. What would you say to someone that is thinking about doing a design project? What would you say to them? What advice would you give to them?
Okay. Well, first of all, we have to find out what is your scope of your project. So do you really need an interior designer, or do you need a decorator?
Okay.
If it's just, like we said before, we're just going to take this room, change the colors, change the furniture. Yes, an interior designer can do it.
Okay.
Because we're trained to do it, but a decorator can also do it. So that's just the difference there, if you have to go on and choose something. Now, if you're doing something more in depth and more intense, like doing some structural changes and things like that, then you need an interior designer. And that person will do the structural part of it for you. Well, not the structural part, but then, of course, we need an engineer.
Right, but you would liaise with.
But we could liaise with and find out things that can work or not work, by liaising with the engineer. And we also do the aesthetic part of it as well.
Okay. All right.
And working out, again, the flow of the space, depending, again, everything is relative to what the scope of the project is.
Okay. All right.
One more thing for the client, on the client end, trust your designer, whoever you choose.
Trust.
Whether it's a decorator or interior designer, trust that person.
Okay.
I'm not saying that things don't go right, but generally speaking, you've hired this person to do the job.
They know what
and
they are doing.
Are professional. They know what they're doing.
Trust your designer. Okay, that's good advice. Yeah.
Another thing is to be realistic about your timelines. You don't want to have let's use this room again. And say, okay, you want this done in a day. It is possible to do it in a day. I'm not lying. I'm just trying to get some sort of example for you. So be realistic about the timelines, when you want the project to start and when you want it to end.
Okay.
Your designer, again, will guide you on that. Could tell you realistically how long it will take.
Because the client can come and say, I really want it in a week.
It can be done in a week, but at a cost. Nothing comes for free.
Okay.
Because we can hire, and again, with the client wanting it in a week, the client also has to be responsible or take responsibility for approving the design. Because the design has to be approved first before we can get this project going. Okay. So the faster you approve the design, the faster the project could get started and completed.
All right.
Because, as I said, we could also hire 100 people to come in and do the job and get it done fast. But again, as I said, it's a cost.
Okay, all right. And so my last question, what advice would you give to someone that is interested in becoming an interior designer?
Well, there are many things I can say about that. But if you're going to be a student of interior design, other than interior design, you have to know business. Yes.
Because we look at all these shows on television and we think, okay, I could do this.
Yes. And I'm not saying no, you can do it. There's a business side of it. And in my experience, that is a very important side. The cute interior is a cute interior, but when you get cute, you are running a business.
Okay.
And that part of it, I always stress to all these young people who come to me and say, oh, I want to be an interior designer. I said, make sure you do electives on business.
Okay.
You have to know how to manage your business. Another one is project management.
Oh.
You have to know, because you're managing a project as well.
Big or small, it's a project that you're managing.
You don't have to be a project manager, but you have to understand the principles of project management so that when you are out there, you will know how to work and how to function in the design environment. It's very, very important.
Wow.
Yeah. But a lot of schools now do have courses in project management. At least I know from my alma mater. I've gone snooping around.
Okay.
And they do now. They didn't back then have have courses in interior design and project management.
All right.
Not all schools will do it. I don't know. But if your school doesn't offer it, your university doesn't offer it, go and take some. And it doesn't have to be within the years of study. It could be after you finish. Just get some information on that.
Okay.
And lastly, you need to get a little course on psychology.
Oh, wow. Psychology too.
No, you have to be able to understand people. and how people think and how, yes.
Let me soak that in a little bit.
Yes, soak it in. No,
Psychology, yeah.
People laugh at me and say,
But it's
Michelle,
so
you're crazy.
true.
But no, you need to have, again, you don't need to be a psychologist. Just take psychology 101.
Right.
You know, project management 101, business 101 and 102. Because this is about a business. You're in it to make money, yes. Yeah, I'm being practical here. Yes, you're making spaces look lovely, but you are in it to make money.
Okay.
And you have to have a business sense about you. Unfortunately, I didn't have that coming out of school. I learned that along the way. Because I was like, oh, so cute. This is so cute. I love doing this.
Yeah.
But when you come out there and you realize, oh, I have to run a business. You have to get serious, you know, and to have this information, I think, is key. I used to tell the young ones project management and business, and lately I stick psychology. And I said, no, I think you need to get an understanding on human behavior, basically.
No, but
or any of the sociology sorts of that aspect of it.
Wow, it makes a lot of sense. Very enlightening conversation. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like and share this video and leave your comments. I would love to know your comments. Thank you so very much again, and until next time, stay tuned for more.